Let's make something clear from the start. The modern dating game has changed. And whether we like it or not, one of the biggest challenges men face today is dealing with a woman's inflated sense of self-worth, what we often call ego. Now, before you jump to conclusions, this isn't about disrespect. This isn't about control. This is about balance. Because when ego dominates a relationship, respect dies. When a woman sees herself as untouchable, flawless, or superior, what she's really doing is putting you in a position to constantly chase, prove, and overextend. And that's how most men lose themselves. You see, society today constantly feeds the idea that women are never wrong, that they should always feel adored, worshipped, and praised just for existing. Instagram followers become validation, DM notifications become self-worth, and attention from men, it's like a free ego boost that never ends. But here's the truth. An unchecked ego is dangerous, for her and for you. Most men think the way to win a woman over is by always being nice, always agreeing, always praising her. And then they wonder why she starts pulling away, acting cold, or treating them like a backup option. Why? Because the more you feed her ego unnecessarily, the more she believes she's above you. What she really needs, deep down, is a man who brings her back to reality, a man who stands firm in his value, who doesn't overpraise, who doesn't chase, who silently reminds her, "You're not better than me, we're equals, and if you can't meet me at that level, I'll walk." This video isn't about playing games. It's about helping you reset the dynamic, where respect replaces entitlement, where attraction grows because you don't need her approval, and where she begins to see you, not as just another option, but as a man she doesn't want to lose. By the end of this, you'll know exactly how to reduce her ego without saying a single disrespectful word. Just actions, mindset, and a presence she won't forget. 1. Stop complimenting her all the time. If you constantly tell a woman she's beautiful, smart, perfect, or amazing, you're unknowingly building a wall between you and her respect for you. Why? Because compliments, when used too often, lose their power. They go from being special to sounding like background noise. And when a woman hears it from you all the time, she starts thinking, "I don't even have to try, he's already hooked." This is where ego starts to inflate. Most men believe that complimenting a woman non-stop is the way to win her heart. But in reality, it often creates the opposite effect. It makes you look needy. It makes her feel superior. And it removes the mystery that keeps her engaged. Now, this doesn't mean you should never compliment her. It means your compliments should be earned, not handed out like candy. She should feel like your words carry weight. That when you say something nice, it actually means something. Let's say you're dating a woman who posts selfies every day, and every time she uploads one, you're the first to say, "Wow, you look stunning." At first, she might appreciate it, but over time, she starts expecting it. Worse, she might even stop valuing your opinion because it's so predictable. Now flip the script. Imagine you stop commenting. You don't like every picture. You don't tell her how gorgeous she is every single day. Instead, you observe, you remain present, but you speak less. Then one day, out of nowhere, you say, "That dress actually caught my attention." Boom, instant impact. She'll remember it, not because it was the best compliment, but because it was rare. When you stop complimenting her all the time, you reduce the ego fuel. You stop feeding the part of her that wants endless validation. And in doing that, you help her refocus. From the mirror, back to the man in front of her. The less predictable you are with praise, the more powerful your presence becomes. Say less. Mean more. Watch the shift. 2. Ignore her when she seeks validation. One of the strongest ways to reduce a woman's ego is by refusing to play the validation game. Women who are used to attention will often test you. She might show off, talk about how many men want her, wear something revealing, or even hint about other guys just to see if you'll bite. Why? Because she wants to feel powerful, to know she still has control over your emotions. And here's the trap most men fall into. They take the bait. They react. They praise her. They try harder. They compete with invisible men. And just like that, she wins the game. Her ego goes up. Your value in her eyes goes down. The solution? Stay unfazed. When she seeks validation, you must treat it like it's invisible. Don't reward the behavior, don't argue, don't act jealous. Just remain calm and continue being yourself. That quiet confidence is more powerful than 1,000 compliments. Let's say you're talking to her and she suddenly says, "I had 5 guys message me last night, but I didn't reply to any." Most men would react with something like, "Wow, you must get a lot of attention," or worse, "So are you still talking to any of them?" That's exactly what she wants, to feel desired, to see your insecurity. But a man who understands the game would just smile and move on. Maybe change the subject. Maybe laugh and say, "That's cute," and continue the conversation like it didn't matter. That sends a silent message. You don't need to prove anything to me. I'm not competing for you. Over time, this shifts the power. She realizes her usual tricks don't work on you, and that makes her chase your approval, because you're not handing it out so easily. The more you ignore her when she seeks unnecessary validation, the more you keep her grounded. It disrupts the pattern, it reduces the ego, and it places you in a rare category of men she can't easily manipulate. Stay cool, stay silent. Let her wonder why you're not reacting, and that's when you win. 3. Don't chase. Make her chase. There's something every man has to learn, and the sooner you understand it, the more powerful your presence becomes. Chasing kills attraction. The moment you start chasing a woman, texting her nonstop, always trying to win her over, constantly proving your worth, you've already placed her on a pedestal. And whether you realize it or not, you've just fed her ego with everything it needs to grow. Now think about how many times you've felt like you were the one doing all the work, always initiating conversations, always planning the hangouts, always being available. Deep down, you start to feel exhausted. And worse, unappreciated. Because when you're the one constantly giving attention, time, and energy, it's rarely matched. Why? Because she doesn't have to. She knows you're not going anywhere. That's the real issue. When a woman knows you're constantly chasing, she relaxes. She stops investing. She gets comfortable being in control. But when you stop chasing and shift your energy inward, focusing on your own time, your own purpose, your own value, something changes. Suddenly she starts wondering why your energy shifted, why you're not as predictable, why you're not clinging to her like before. That curiosity leads to attraction. That silence creates tension. That confidence pulls her in. This is what most men never understand. You don't need to win her over. You need to win over yourself. When you start acting like the prize, when you carry yourself like you're already complete, you naturally stop chasing, and that alone resets the entire dynamic. She begins to see you differently, not as someone begging for attention, but as a man who values himself too much to waste energy chasing anyone who's unsure about him. You weren't born to chase. You were born to choose. And when you start choosing peace, purpose, and self-respect over endless pursuit, women notice. They feel it. They respond to it. You don't need to chase her. Let your presence make her want to come closer. That's when the game flips. That's when the ego starts to melt. 4. Challenge her opinions without fear. Too many men today have been trained to think that disagreeing with a woman is disrespectful, that the best way to win her over is to always nod, agree, and go along with everything she says, no matter how much they don't believe it. Let's be real here. That mindset is weak. And it's exactly why so many women lose respect for the men they date. When you constantly agree just to keep the peace, you're not being nice, you're being passive. You're hiding your voice. You're shrinking yourself to fit her reality. And you're teaching her that her opinion matters more than yours. What does that do? It boosts her ego and lowers your value. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men are afraid of conflict with women, afraid to speak up, afraid to push back, afraid to say, "I don't see it that way," or "That doesn't make sense to me." Why? Because they fear being labeled difficult or toxic or controlling. But the real toxicity is staying silent and allowing yourself to become a doormat just to keep a woman interested. Bro, you have to wake up. A woman won't respect a man who has no backbone. She might enjoy the control. She might take advantage of it. But deep down, she won't admire you. She won't chase you. And she definitely won't see you as a leader. When you challenge her ideas respectfully, you're not creating conflict. You're showing confidence. You're showing that you think for yourself. You're reminding her that you're not intimidated by beauty, curves, or attitude. You're your own man. Women don't need another yes man. They need a man who stands his ground, who listens but also speaks, who respects her opinion but doesn't worship it. And the best part? When you challenge her without being emotional or aggressive, it shakes her ego. Not in a disrespectful way, but in a way that makes her realize this man isn't easy to control. That's when she starts respecting you. That's when attraction deepens. That's when you become unforgettable. Not because you followed her lead, but because you walked beside her strong in your own truth. 5. Walk away without explaining yourself. This is where most men fall apart. They stay too long and explain too much. When a woman disrespects you, plays games, withdraws effort, or tries to test your boundaries, most men start talking. They explain why they're upset. They try to reason with her. They over-explain why they're pulling back, hoping she'll understand and suddenly change. But here's the cold truth. A woman doesn't respect words. She respects actions, especially when it comes to ego. When a man walks away and doesn't explain himself, it sends a powerful message. I don't owe you anything. I know my worth. If you can't match it, I'm gone. That silence stings her ego in a way that words never could, because women are used to men begging, negotiating, pleading for clarity, but walking away quietly, that's rare. That's powerful. Let's be honest. If a woman pushes you to your limit and your first instinct is to sit her down and pour your heart out, hoping she'll get it, you're wasting your breath. She knows what she's doing. She knows when she's playing games. She's not confused. She's testing you. She wants to see if you'll hold your ground or if you'll fold under pressure. And most men fold. They try to fix the situation by explaining their value, justifying their reactions, and asking for understanding. But here's the wake-up call. Explaining yourself is not masculine energy. Walking away with dignity is. You don't need to be rude. You don't need to slam doors. You just leave. No text, no closure, no breakdown of your emotions. Why? Because your silence teaches her everything she needs to know. She'll sit with it. She'll think about it. She'll feel the absence. And that absence will reduce the ego more than 1,000 words ever could. Suddenly, she realizes you're not one of those guys who'll stick around no matter what. You're not emotionally dependent. You don't need to be heard to feel strong. Your action was your statement. Let her feel it. Let her wonder. Let her miss what she took for granted. A man who can walk away without noise holds the most power because he's not proving anything. He already knows who he is. 6. Don't be available. 24/7. One of the fastest ways to boost a woman's ego and lower her respect for you is by being too available. If she knows that whenever she calls, texts, snaps her fingers, or drops a hint, you'll show up immediately, you've already lost the upper hand. Availability, when given too easily, sends the wrong signal. It tells her, you have nothing else going on in your life except me. That's not attractive. That's not mysterious. That's not masculine. It's needy. It's predictable. And worst of all, it's boring. Men need to understand something. Women want a man whose life is full, whose schedule is packed with purpose, not empty waiting for her attention. When you're always ready to respond, always the first to reply, always free to meet up at her convenience, she doesn't appreciate it. She expects it. It becomes normal. And once something becomes normal, it loses value. This is how ego grows. She starts thinking she's in control. She becomes the center of your world. And once that happens, she stops respecting your time. She starts seeing you as someone she can call when she's bored, not someone she deeply values. But when you're not available 24/7, when you have your own priorities, goals, and boundaries, she starts to feel something rare, the possibility of losing access to you. And that feeling, that uncertainty, that's what resets her ego. She starts texting first. She becomes more intentional. She thinks twice before canceling or delaying plans, because now your time feels important. It's no longer something she can take for granted. This doesn't mean you play games or pretend to be busy. It means you actually fill your life with real purpose. Gym, work, passion projects, friends, growth, anything that builds you. The busier and more fulfilled you are, the less likely you are to overextend for someone who hasn't earned your time. Remember, a woman's ego thrives on control. When you're always there, she feels like she has you wrapped around her finger. But when you're harder to access, her ego starts shrinking and her attraction starts rising. Let her feel your absence. Let her earn your presence. 7. Control your attention. She craves it. If there's one currency more powerful than money in today's dating world, it's attention. And make no mistake, a woman knows exactly how valuable it is. In fact, it's often the fuel that feeds her ego. When she posts a selfie, gets 100 likes, and 20 heart-eye comments, what do you think that does to her mindset? It creates a false sense of power, a belief that she's in control, because men are always watching, liking, commenting, chasing. That's why your attention, when given without purpose, becomes worthless. Too many men hand it out like it's free. Always watching her stories, always double-tapping her photos, always texting first, always responding fast, always giving full focus, even when she hasn't earned it. And what happens? She gets comfortable. She starts to feel untouchable, not because she's better than you, but because you're acting like she is. But here's the shift. When you take back control of your attention, her ego takes a hit, and it forces her to look at you differently. Because now you're not just another guy in her inbox. You're not feeding the same cycle. You're not available on demand. You're focused, grounded, and selective. That changes everything. See, women are used to attention, but they're not used to men who control it. Men who don't give it freely, men who don't obsess, men who observe quietly, say less, and keep their energy to themselves unless it's truly earned. And when a woman feels your attention slipping, even slightly, it creates a gap that disrupts her ego, a gap that makes her ask questions. Why isn't he reacting? Why isn't he watching me like the others? Why isn't he chasing? That curiosity can turn into attraction, and that attraction pulls her back in. Understand this. The most attractive man is the one who doesn't beg for attention. He gives it selectively. He knows his time, energy, and focus are valuable. And because of that, he makes her work for it. Not with force, not with games, but with quiet, undeniable self-control. Give less. Watch her want more. 8. Call out. Entitlement, calmly. Let's be honest. A lot of women today walk around with unchecked entitlement. Not confidence, not self-worth, but entitlement. A belief that simply because they exist, they deserve special treatment, attention, praise, and resources from any man who comes their way. And sadly, most men enable this behavior. They stay silent, they laugh it off, they try not to rock the boat, but what they don't realize is, silence only encourages more disrespect. It feeds her ego. It confirms her belief that she's always right and always above criticism. You want to reduce a woman's ego? Then stop letting her get away with behavior that you know deep down is unfair. If she cancels plans last minute and expects you to be fine with it, say something. If she acts cold and distant, but still expects you to treat her like a queen, say something. If she's clearly taking more than she gives, don't sweep it under the rug. Speak up, but do it calmly, without emotion, without begging. The mistake most men make is either staying completely quiet or exploding with frustration. Both approaches fail. Silence reinforces the behavior. Anger makes you look weak and unstable, but calm truth, that hits different. When you call out her entitled actions with composure, it forces her to confront something rare, a man who sees through her behavior and won't tolerate it. And the calmness? That's what throws her off, because she expects either validation or emotional drama, not clarity, not confidence. And don't think calling it out makes you the bad guy. If a woman truly respects you, she'll pause. She might get defensive at first, but she'll feel it. She'll realize that you're not just some guy trying to impress her. You're someone with standards, boundaries, self-respect. That's how you shake her ego. Not with insults, not with silence, but with truth delivered like a man. The moment you stop tolerating entitled behavior is the moment she either steps up or walks away, and either way, you win, because you refuse to play the role of the spineless guy she can manipulate. Remember, confidence isn't loud, it's honest, and honesty is the sharpest tool against ego. 9. Raise your standards, then enforce them. Every man says he wants a high-value woman, but the truth is, most men don't even know what their own standards are. Or worse, they know them, but they never enforce them. And that's exactly why so many women develop inflated egos in relationships. They see right through the bluff. Here's the truth. If you don't hold yourself to a high standard, she won't either. If you let disrespect slide, if you tolerate inconsistency, if you ignore red flags just because she's attractive or gives you a little attention, then you're part of the problem. You're showing her that she can do whatever she wants and still keep access to you. And you can't reduce a woman's ego if you're busy lowering yourself just to keep her around. Raising your standards starts with getting brutally honest with yourself. What kind of behavior will you no longer tolerate? What qualities are non-negotiable for you? How should you be treated as a man of value? Once you get clear on that, you stick to it. No exceptions, no begging, no hoping she changes. And this isn't about being controlling. It's about respecting yourself first. A woman's ego will test your standards. She'll push your buttons. She'll see how far she can go. And it's not always conscious, but it's real. And the second she sees you back down, or make excuses for her, or keep showing up despite the nonsense, that's the moment she loses respect for you. The ego rises, the dynamic shifts, and now you're chasing again. But when you enforce your standards calmly, without apology, everything changes. She either adjusts or she exits, but you stay grounded. You don't bend just because you're afraid to lose her. Here's the twist. The moment she sees that your standards are real and that you won't tolerate less, you become a challenge, a mirror, a force she has to reckon with. And ego? Ego doesn't survive in the presence of strong masculine boundaries. Stop hoping she'll treat you right out of love. Start demanding it out of self-worth. Raise your standards, then back them up with action, every single time. 10. Let her feel the risk of losing you. One of the deepest mistakes men make in today's world is acting like they're afraid to be alone. Always clinging, always staying, no matter how bad the behavior gets. Always forgiving without change. That kind of energy doesn't make a woman love you more. It makes her take you for granted. It feeds her ego. It makes her think, he'll never leave. I can do whatever I want. You want to reduce that ego? Make her feel the risk of losing you. Not by threatening, not by making a scene, but by living in such a way that your presence feels earned, not guaranteed. A woman should always know, if I start slacking, if I become disrespectful, if I start playing games, he will walk and I won't get him back. That quiet awareness is powerful. It humbles her. It forces her to self-reflect. And in a world where most men are afraid to set that line, you become different. You don't reduce a woman's ego by pleasing her. You do it by showing her, through your actions, that you're not scared to leave if your standards are not met. When she feels that risk, she resets. She softens. She chooses to come correct, not because you begged, but because she knows you won't tolerate less. That's how you regain the respect that ego tried to erase. Here's the truth no one wants to admit. The more a man worships a woman, the more invisible he becomes to her. Respect dies when there's no challenge. Attraction fades when there's no self-control. If you keep feeding her ego, don't be shocked when she treats you like a backup plan. It's time to flip the script, reduce the ego, raise your standards, and watch how fast everything changes. Drop your experience in the comments. I want to hear your story. I'll be reading and responding personally. Let's build real conversation between men who've had enough of being overlooked.